Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Pageants and Tangents. We have made it to episode number 13. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We have a couple of substitutes this week. So I'm just looking over there as I get the Instagram Live started. So we've got Gianna, who's a familiar face. She's subbing in for Haley, and Kenzie, who is subbing in for Morgan. Kenzie is a new face. So Kenzie, would you like to introduce yourself briefly to the adoring masses, and also just run us through your pageant history, because I got you to count your sashes before we went live, and there were a few.
Yes, just a handful. So I am a 17-year pageant veteran with 15 titles to my name, 3 of them being 3 of the largest state pageants in North Carolina. And now I am retired. I coach pageant girls, and I get to live my best life in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was most recently Miss North Carolina USA, and I placed top 20 at Miss USA 2 years ago. So that is my biggest claim to fame. And other than that, I've got a great little corgi that is the love of my life. And I just get to exist now in the pageant world.
And how do you know Morgan?
Yeah, Morgan was my fitness trainer for Miss North Carolina USA. The first year I went into state without a trainer, I figured I could probably do this by myself. And I placed first runner-up, so I was really excited about that. And most girls would usually take the week to cry and be upset and figure out if they were going to compete again. And I went the opposite way. I was ready to work, ready to do it next year, and didn't want to take any breaks. So I called Morgan literally that night / maybe the next morning and started working with her before I went to Miss North Carolina USA the second year. And she has now been stuck with me for 3 years now. See her as one of my best friends, not just a coach. And she's one of my favorite humans.
And just before I go over to Gianna, can you run me through what your first thoughts were when you jumped on the call with Morgan and you were confronted, let's say, by her personality?
Yeah. So I have always been a little more reserved, shy, if you will, quiet or soft-spoken. And as soon as I met Morgan, I was like, wow, this is everyone I wish I could be in a human being. She is so in your face and loud and opinionated in all the right ways. Confident might be the easiest word to be used to describe her. So intimidating, I was definitely on the call. I was a little intimidated by just her presence, but after a couple of quick chats and figuring out what I wanted to do, I knew that she was going to be the perfect match for me. And I think most people that work with her will probably say the same thing.
Do you curse as much as she does?
I do not. I think my mother would kill me, maybe. So I try to keep it on the down low for sure.
And look, I'm Australian and I don't curse as much as she does. So rare for me.
She does enough for the both of us, so that's good.
He does more than enough. I don't know if you know the very first pageant interview I did over 10 years ago. Bear in mind, I'm from Australia. So guys, when you're watching, I had no idea about pageants. And I finished every interview, Gianna can tell you this, with the same 10 questions at the end. They're not mine. I borrowed them from a show. Actually, I borrowed it from a show called Inside the Actors Studio. I subsequently found out that even they borrowed it from someone else. Everything is stolen in this world. And the original 7th question was, what's your favorite curse word? And I didn't know that you guys aren't allowed to answer that. And this is back in the days when we were actually interviewing in my house. So she was a couple of rooms over and she was sat there. She was a Miss Universe Australia contestant. And she was like, she just wouldn't answer the question. And I didn't know why. And so I found out. So yeah. Morgan says things off air that we probably cannot repeat here. And I told Kenzie a few stories about that. All right, so that's Kenzie, and thank you for subbing in, Kenzie. I hope we don't scare you off too badly, although with Morgan not here, it's a lot saner. So I don't know, you tell me. Gianna, how has your week been?
Hey, it's been a while. Hopefully no one's sick of seeing me on their screen right now, but yeah, this week has been fun. I had a bunch of appearances for my title, and obviously like work has been getting chaotic because we're still state testing. I don't know if I had mentioned that when I did my interview with you like a month ago, but state testing was coming up. I think we just finished. Hopefully, I'm hoping we just finished. But yeah, I've been everywhere. I was at the New York City Greek Independence Day parade last Sunday.
Yeah.
I unironically ran/walked a 5K last Saturday because it was a charity 5K. So, and it was an appearance, but I also was like, yeah, you know what? Let's just run it. I ran half, I walked half. Yesterday I was at another charity walk, but it was not a 5K, so it was okay. And it was just less intense. And it was like, so all of them were really fun. And then today I was at a holy party, like for the Indian festival where they like throw colors at you. So yeah, I've lived a bunch of lives in the last 7 days, and I had color on me this morning, but I washed it off.
I don't know. I mean, it sounds either exciting or traumatic. I don't know. So you've had things thrown at you, and you said unironically you did a 5K. Does that mean that you turned up, you had no idea, and suddenly you were made to run? Because that would be traumatizing for me.
It's my biggest fear.
No, I knew it was a 5K. It was a charity 5K for the Daniela Conte Foundation. It was like fundraising for childhood cancer. I willingly signed up for this because I was excited. We were invited by another contestant, and like I knew it was a 5K. It says walk/run. I thought we'd be walking most of it, but me and my team at one point were like, let's run. So, because it is timed, even if you walk or run. So I wanted to get a good time. It wasn't like, and I wasn't the best, trust me. But now I kind of want to go back next year and see how I could do if I actually ran like the 3.1 miles.
Okay. Kenzie, I'll get your opinion on this, but I know that Morgan hates cardio. Her and I bonded over this because I also hate cardio. I play a lot of tennis. I love running after the ball, but just like running for running's sake, that's not my idea of heaven. That's more purgatory. No. So I would pay someone I would pay not to have to do the 5K. I'm sure it's a worthy cause, but I would pay not to have to do it. Kenzie, hang on, Gianna, just before you argue your case, Kenzie, where do you sit on the cardio, love or hate?
I hate it. And I also wasn't able to do it during any of my prep because I disintegrated a bone in my foot and didn't get the surgery to fix it. So the cardio that Morgan made me do was so limited because I physically was like in a cast or boot my entire prep.
What did you disintegrate? What is this a pageant?
Okay. Apparently, it is a common pageant injury, so watch out. Football players get it, ballerinas, and I guess now pageant girls get it. My sesamoid bone, which is a little itty bitty tiny bone that connects your two metatarsals, your big toe and your second toe. It's literally so small, it looks like a little butterfly. I disintegrated it into multiple pieces. They didn't know at the time, so they kept giving me steroid shots because they thought that was going to fix the inflammation. And then about 2 weeks before I went to Miss North Carolina, USA, they finally did a clear x-ray and they found the bone that was broken. They're like, oh, you can get surgery. I was like, I got a big gig coming up. I actually can't have surgery. When I lose, I'll come get it done. And then I won. And then I was a part of the lucky group of girls that had 4 weeks to get ready for Miss USA. So
oh my goodness.
I don't run. I still don't run.
You see, Gianna, this is why we don't run, because it ends up disintegrating the brains.
Can I defend?
No, not really. Let's move on. Okay, no, go for it.
It was for a good cause, okay? It was fun. I got a free little snack at the end. I got a medal, all right? I don't like because I've never run like an actual race. I've got a medal, okay? And I did say that I don't run unless I'm chased. But I'm also, as we all are here, I mean, you don't do pageants unless you're competitive to a certain extent. So like once you get there and you get like the adrenaline, you're like, no, I want to win this. Was I any shape to win that? No, but I was running for the sake of beating whoever was in front of me. All right. I'm competitive and I don't run unless I'm cheap, but I can be enticed with a medal. That's all.
So for those of you who don't know Gianna as a teacher, if you would like her to run your charity event, apparently all you need to do is give her a snack and a medal. That's pretty cheap for an appearance from Miss Long Island. Just a random medal, which is probably, I could get one of those. I used to be a tennis coach. We used to get medals in all the time. And a snack. What snack was it? Was it a good snack? Was it worth it?
Actually, there was a couple snacks. I got fresh popped popcorn. It was really good. Ugh. Okay.
All right.
Don't yuck my yum. Popcorn and a granola bar, and a really cool seltzer water that like I've never tried. It was like a rocket pop flavor. I don't know. It was like a red, white, and blue flavor. seltzer water that tasted really good. There was other things like other than granola bars, but it was a really good granola bar. Really good
Hang on, let me get this right. You ran 5Ks. Half ran, half walked 5Ks for water.
And popcorn.
Seltzer, but it was a charity. It was a charity. It wasn't just, but yeah,
I'm sorry.
Seltzer water.
Popcorn, which is like 80% air last time I checked or something. So you ran, Gianna, let me get this right. You literally ran for air and water. That's what we've discovered about your week. And then you've had colors thrown at you. Right, okay. That's a traumatizing week in anyone's book. Oh my God.
Okay, next question.
It wasn't a question. I was just getting you to catch us up on your week. What was it, to be fair, though, what was the cause? Because you mentioned a few good causes there, and I want to make sure that we shout out our charities and people who are doing good work in the community. So what were the causes?
For this one, it was the Daniela Conte Foundation. It was supporting childhood cancer. So, yeah. And then yesterday I was at a congenital heart walk for like children with congenital heart defects and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. So you don't need to do your fitness then because you're doing all these charity walks. That'll be your cardio right there.
I leave and I see my steps and I'm like, okay, I'll take the day off. Don't tell the trainer. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you can still count it as your steps, right? 10,000 steps. I just look outside because it started raining and I'm not a fan of the rain. Guys, what I wanted to talk about with the crew today was about, I've titled it Learning to Stand Up for Yourself. Now, that sounds a bit odd, but what I mean is, I'll give the context so that Kenzie and Gianna understand where my brain came up with this. There are some things in pageantry, let's say you have suboptimal experiences, and sometimes as a pageant contestant, you feel like your hands are bound, for want of a better phrase. You want to say something, but you're not sure whether you should or whether you can, or whether it's a bit of a pageant taboo. Some cases, for example, if you see something untoward happening in the scoring, or maybe you don't get a score, or maybe you're asked to make an appeal. The big one that's come up quite often is you were told about prize packages, and then you end up having to fork over all the money yourself. And then you're like, hang on, I thought you were going to say you were going to pay for my ticket. Sorry, Spirit Airlines. You were just talking about Kenzie and Gianna about Spirit going under. But, suddenly you have to fork over the $400 or $500 for your ticket home when apparently it was supposed to be covered in the prize package. And sometimes it can be difficult to know when to say something. And even if you are going to say something, how do you say it? I tend to say blanket, don't just start shouting on social media. Yeah. Kenzie and Gianna might disagree with me. I don't know. I don't think shouting about it on social media and shaming people is the way to go. But I think it's important we have some sort of discussion around, okay, how do we handle certain situations? And Gianna, how long have you been competing in pageants? I can't even remember.
9 years. 9.
Okay. 8 or 9 years. We'll say 9.
9. I think my first one was 2017.
Okay. So Gianna, you're the teacher, so you do the math. I know you guys are American. You like to say math. We've got your 9 plus Kenzie's 17.
Oh, you want me to do the math? Okay. 26? No. Yes. 26. Yep. Yes. I'm not a math teacher. I'm an English teacher. Okay. I'm certified in English and special ed. Okay. Okay. 26.
I love how you're accusing yourself and then defending yourself against you. I haven't said anything. All right, so 9 and 17, yes, 26, and then my 10 is 36. So we got a combined 36 years worth of. Are you right, Gianna? Do you want to double check on your calculator? Poor old Kenzie is like, who is this girl? It's like I don't know.
Listen, I don't do math. I'm a creative brain.
I don't like to be embarrassed in public.
Probably no one likes to be embarrassed in public. But anyway, we've got a bit of experience with pageants. Obviously, Kenzie and Gianna as competitors and myself as doing what I do. So some of the questions I ran past the panel to get ready to ask. And if you guys watching at home, by the way, if you're on Instagram, if I look that way, it's to look at Instagram. It's hard for me to keep track of the questions. if you want to get a question answered by us, it's better to put it on Facebook or YouTube, because then I can actually bring it up on the live here. But so let's run through these, and we'll go from the top. So, for example, question number 1. So these are hypotheticals, okay? I'm going to say that. So when these guys comment on something, it's not to say they're going through it right now or they have been through it. Just disclaimer, okay? But for example, number 1, you're told to post a sponsored piece of content you don't agree with. What do you do? Right? So we'll just go around the room and we'll discuss and look, some of these questions might have very similar answers. I'll go to Gianna first, because Gianna has been on with us more often, and we'll let Kenzie think about it. But Gianna, what would you say in that hypothetical situation? So pageants and sponsors, obviously sponsors are a big part of pageants. And let's say there's a sponsored piece of content. Maybe you don't agree with the business or the industry. I mean, plastic surgery or cryptocurrency or something like that. So how would you handle that situation?
Yeah. And I mean, I totally get, I guess, trying to keep sponsors. I know organizations are big. If they get a sponsor, they try to keep it. And I think the main thing, I'll probably reiterate this multiple times, but if you have the relationship with your director to be able to kind of voice that concern, I feel like the first thing is to voice the concern with the director, who could either, I don't know, post it on your behalf or something. Like if there's like a different account that's not your title holder account, like maybe the directors have like their own account sometimes for, you know what I mean? So like, I guess first, my first thing is have that open conversation relationship that you're able to go to your director and talk to them and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. I don't really agree with this. To either they could work something out like that. Maybe they're going to say, screw you, and post it anyway. I mean, you never know. They're like, this is the job you signed up for. But I think voicing that concern privately first is going to be important. And that's all I have. Yeah.
No, that's great. Kenzie, what about you? Your thoughts?
Yeah, you'll hear me say this time and time again, probably today too. If it doesn't align with your morals and ethics, you probably shouldn't have competed for that pageant to begin with, nor should those be your sponsors to begin with. However, being a state title holder multiple times around, I do understand what that's like when you have a set of sponsors who are required to work with and required to post for, whether that's in your contract or it's to gain whatever piece of sponsored item, business, et cetera, that they're giving you. So I agree. If it's one of those that it absolutely goes against everything you think, believe, and speak on, have that conversation with your director, go to the sponsor, try to offer alternatives if you can. If it's, it's posting a video, you don't want to post a video, there's always conversations that you can have about it. But to your point earlier too, you don't always have to go and bash the organization or bash the sponsor just because it's something you don't necessarily want to post.
Yeah. I think this is going to come up a few times. So I want to bring up the directors first, because I've said, I think I said this maybe 5 or 6 years ago when I just had a random thought bubble. I said the directors are going to be the experience you have of the pageant, more so than the system. So you might have a very small system, or a system, let's say, you're not a huge fan of, but if the director is great, you'll probably have a great experience. On the other hand, if you're competing for what you think is your dream system, but the director's not on your team, you're going to have a very difficult experience. And so if I go again to Gianna first, if we talk about how important it is to have a director that's on your side, and look, if you are fortunate enough to have that, that's great, because then you can have these conversations, right? But let's say you hypothetically, again, in a pageant, and for whatever reason, the director wasn't really on your team. That could be for any number of reasons. Maybe she's crowned you and now she's thinking about the next year's pageant and she's not focusing on you anymore. How do you address, Gianna, the situation, or how would you address the situation where you feel like the director is not someone you can really have that discussion with?
That's really tough, because I feel like the director is a lot of the time is the one where you want to please them because they hold a lot of power in your reign. Kind of like you said, the director can make or break your reign and your year as a title holder. And I think when you can't speak to them, I mean, I would hope that that's a route. Or I say find someone in the organization that you can speak to. A lot of times that, there's not just a director, but there's maybe a title holder handler, like if it's a bigger pageant, or
Right.
someone that's in charge of kind of being that liaison between the title holders and the directors. But I think if push comes to shove and worse comes to worse, I mean, kind of echoing what Kenzie said, but definitely going to the sponsor and trying to work something out maybe with the sponsor first, so that the sponsor doesn't go back to your director with a complaint and, saying, well, your title holder didn't do this, so possibly trying to mitigate that with a sponsor so that you don't have to go to the director possibly. I think it puts everyone in a really tough situation with something like that. And yeah, it's hard to I feel like this is a common issue with pageants, but yeah, it's hard to stay true to yourself and your morals when you're kind of being told you have to do this in order to keep, this title that you may have really worked hard and dreamed of.
Yeah, I think it goes back. Kenzie said, if it really is against your morals, then you may have entered the wrong pageant, which I agree with. And it's one of the reasons I think you really want to do some research into a pageant before you jump into it, even though you think it's your dream pageant or the one you've been dreaming of ever since you were a little girl. I mean, obviously Miss USA has been through a lot over the last few years. And so you really want to do your research now, because what it's going to be this year is not going to be the same it was 10 years ago. Sometimes, unfortunately, you're sold a story about what the pageant's going to be, and then you are in it, and then it turns out to be something different. So it is a struggle. Kenzie, I'm sure your 15 different pageants, you've had some amazing directors. If you had to work with someone, let's say, who isn't really on your team, or you have some difficulty, personalities just clash, how would you advise? I mean, you coach as well. How would you advise your contestants, or how would you handle someone really on your team?
Yeah, some of my girls that I work with have been in this situation before. First and foremost, as a coach, I'm always on my girls' side, my contestants' side, because they need that extra support and someone behind them to give that to them. And sometimes you don't always get it from your directors or your team. I think the advice that I would give to them is pageants are not the end all be all of the universe and the world. Yes, I understand it might be your dream job and it might be the thing you've been looking forward to the most, but it doesn't have to be your every single day life. You can treat it like a business transaction. So the conversations that you need to have can be formal. They can be, a professional phone call over the email. You don't have to have consistent conversations with this person who makes you feel less than every single day. And if it does get to the point, where that's just over consuming you and you can't stop thinking about it, then again, there does need to be a time where maybe get mom and dad involved if you're a younger contestant, or sit down and lay out the lines of, this is what I expected and this is what I'm getting. And anything can be accomplished, I think, truly in a respectful conversation. But I think knowing too that they're not fully alone and that you do have other people that might be able to back you up rather than feeling really isolated in that situation.
Kenzie, do you feel that's a lesson or a skill set that you had to learn through your 17 years of pageantry and 15 different titles, this idea that you have to learn to communicate professionally?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're first starting out, pageants are fun, right? You're doing, especially if you start off younger, like I did, you're doing little small festival pageants and localized pageants. And then you realize that this is a business. Yes, pageants are not, some of them are nonprofit organizations. Some of them are an organization or a business where they are making money off the contestants. And everyone is trying to get their cut of the cake, right? So it's up to you as a pageant contestant to come at things professionally. I think we expect the most out of our pageant title holders as well. They're expected to be influencers, celebrities, but also be able to communicate and be friendly and nice. I definitely at least had to learn from a very, very early age how to advocate for myself as a teenager to a room full of adults. And I try to teach my girls that same thing.
Let me just ask you, because I know directors sometimes have a very difficult job. I think sometimes I'm going to say there are some great directors out there, and generally the ones that I think are the ones that I align with most are the ones who put the girls first. There are some directors who famously made choices that I just desperately disagree with. But to be fair, Gianna, in terms of directors' favorite what are the most important qualities with the directors that you've worked with, who you've, it's really been a joy to work with, and you've never had a day where you go, oh no, I need to speak to so-and-so again? Just the directors watching this know, what are the most important qualities for a director to have to make the title holder feel, yes, this director is on my team?
Yeah, I've worked with a few different directors, and I think the biggest thing that really helped me feel like I'm able to go to them for different things is, look, I'm going to say I was sometimes, especially being that I started as a teen, I did things wrong sometimes, and my directors, maybe had to correct me and lead me in the right way, which may not always feel the best. But I think if you build up that rapport, like as soon as your girl is crowned, it helps a lot better down the road when you have to have those more uncomfortable conversations. If you we kind of said this about something else before, right? But if you come right out the gate and like accuse your title holder of, not doing this, not doing that, and that's the first time you've really spoke to your title holder, that's not going to really make them feel great and empowered and like they want to stay in your organization. So I think directors that kind of open up the communication before, I've had directors that are very communicative. I've had directors that are a little more hands-off, but the thing that I've noticed the most with them is that they're approachable, right? And that's what's gonna be the key if you're approachable to your title holders, and not that they feel like they have to go through someone with you, or that they feel like anytime you say, "Hey, can I talk to you really quick?" they're in trouble. Right. So, and this is something I even use in teaching, because you got to talk to the parents and tell them some good things first before
Right. Okay.
about a problem right away. So I like to send good updates at the beginning of the year. And then once problems start happening in mid-year, I feel like, well, they did this today and it was not really helpful. So, it kind of applies to this too, right? Be encouraging, call out your title holders for the good things they do, so that if something were to happen, if there was an issue, there's not this sort of feeling attacked from one side or the other. That would be the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think what you just alluded to about beginning with a positive in teaching circles or coaching circles, we used to call that the sandwich technique. It was, you start with something positive, then you put the criticism in the middle, and then you finish with another positive. And I had this so ingrained in my head every time I was doing reports, because I used to do reports for tennis students once every semester. And for example, you'd always say, look, Gianna is a very pleasant, well-mannered girl to work with. She needs to work on concentrating a little bit more in class, but overall she's had a really good semester. And it literally is just so ingrained in my head, like, good criticism, good. So that, but I think, to be fair also, and then I'll go across to Kenzie, I think what you said about communication is very important as well, and being approachable, because I know that some title holders have had conversations with their directors, and bear in mind, if you're a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 12-year-old girl, you're going to handle yourself differently to someone who's mid-20s, mid-30s, right? If you get yelled at by your director when you're 15, it's not the same as when you get yelled at a director when you're 25. But sometimes directors' ideas of communication is, well, I get to yell at you when I think you've done something wrong. And I don't think that's what it's about. So communication, yes, but also being approachable. And I think, Kenzie, you mentioned this, I think respectful is a very, very big thing, especially in this day and age. It's not just about having conversations and you yell at each other and you say, well, I opened a communication, I yelled at you, I told you everything you did wrong. I think having that professionalism, that even if you do disagree, you can be respectful and not end up just hurling insults at one another. But Kenzie, if I go across to you, in terms of directors, what are like the biggest qualities that you look for or have had the fortune to experience with the directors that, you've really felt you've had a great experience with?
Yeah, one of my favorite things that one of my directors has ever done is that they created a line of communication that was very open and honestly pleasant to work with. So her whole thing was, it takes 30 days to form a habit. And so for 30 days after we were crowned, we were required to communicate with her in some capacity. Now, some people are probably listening to this being like, that's insane. It made it so much easier to be able to call this director and have conversations with her after our first month on the job. Whether it was a text or a call, when I saw their name pop up, I wasn't terrified that I'd done something wrong or that I was in the wrong. Instead, it was like, oh, like, I'm so excited to be able to talk to her about what I have planned this week, or, what I'm doing with my life outside of pageants. So I do think the way that directors approach the communication too, I think a lot of the times we think, oh, I can only text them when something didn't go right, or my appearance was bad, or I missed something, or I'm late. and instead being able to kind of have those conversations of, these are my goals this week, or this is what I was able to accomplish. Did you see my post? And I had a director who was really, really good at encouraging that and made us have that. And I've definitely been on the other end of the spectrum where I've had directors who every time their name popped up, I cried. So there's definitely that in between that you have to be aware of with that communication. But I think that was probably the best. If there are directors listening, I think that was one of the best things that they could have done for us.
This is the reason I wanted to have the conversation, because I know it's maybe not kosher to sometimes admit that sometimes things don't go according to plan. But Kenzie saying, for example, that every time the name came up, she burst into tears. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it's also not. Sometimes, and I've coached a lot of young women, not just in pageants, but in tennis and life coaching as well. And there's some people that just, they've yelled at them, or for whatever reason, they don't get along. And knowing, let me ask you this, like general pointers, and then we'll get to the actual questions. But I think the question would be very easy if we can assume there's a director who's on your team and you've got good lines of communication. I think that solves a lot of the issues. But in terms of when do you know when to say something? I know that's a very difficult question to ask, right? When do you know when to say something, and when should you perhaps just knuckle under, if that's the right turn of phrase, and just get on with it and just sort of make sure that you're not being too reactive or too sensitive? Because sometimes, to be fair to directors and to fair to some other people as well, their communication style is a bit more blunt, and they don't mean offense by it. It's just the way they communicate, and other people are more sensitive and empathic. I don't know where you two guys end up on the spectrum, but if I go across to you, Gianna, first, like, is there any general guideline that you could give our audience in terms of, okay, now I should say something respectfully, but now I should say something rather than putting up with this anymore?
Yeah. And you mean with like the directors being like,
just in general. Yeah.
In general. Okay. So even like outside stuff, I mean, like if something were to be going on at an appearance, or just like in general, like something in my reign, in my life, I think it's going to be personal to everyone. And that's why I think that's such a hard question to answer, because for me, I am the type, I'm kind of in between. I don't think I'm like, I can take a lot, but then like sometimes, I can be more sensitive, but I'm also very like empathetic. So I feel like I'm somewhere in between the three. But I think for me, I finally decide to speak up when I feel like it's affecting me in a way where I can't do my job as a title holder effectively anymore, where I wake up and I think, oh, I don't even want to put this crown and sash on today and go out for this appearance. Right. Like, I think, and obviously that's an extreme. I feel like that's actually, if it gets to that point, it's probably even, you should have said something before. Yeah. But like, it's going to be personal to everyone and kind of what you can handle. And if you're super sensitive, then, maybe you want to like take a step back and, not jump on anything too quickly. But I know for me, like, I can take a bit, but if it gets to something where it's really like leaning heavy on my heart, where I don't want to go to certain events or don't want to see certain people because, for whatever reason, that's when I speak up, because then that gets in the way of like my mental health and feeling comfortable, right? Because I have the most fun at appearances when I feel comfortable and open, and I'm not thinking that every little movement I make is going to be scrutinized in some sort of way.
I think also what Kenzie was saying about having a coach, sometimes the coach can help by giving an outside perspective. So if you've got a good relationship with your coach, you've got a good rapport, they can help say, okay, you're being a bit sensitive here, you're overreacting, or no, absolutely, you should say something, and here's how you're saying it. So Kenzie, same question. I know it's a difficult question, but in general, like, when should you stand up for yourself versus just, okay, knuckling under?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be in the minority when I say this, is and I know things change, and sometimes what is written down about the competition or the sponsors or your directors is not always what is the true word. I am someone, though, that believes if you sign a contract, that is your job for the full year. Same way with my marketing job right now. If I have the slightest issue with a coworker and I know if I bring it up, it could get me fired, I'm going to be mindful of how I react, when I react, and to what I'm reacting to. Kind of like I stated earlier, if it does go against your ethics, your morals, your moral compass, 100% speak up, say something, again, in a respectful way. And that is whether you have a good relationship or not with your directors or team members, whatever the situation is over. However, there are some times where you do just have to put a smile on your face and say, yes, thank you for this opportunity. I will be there, and show up, because there is another girl who would have gladly done exactly what you are getting to do right now. And I think that's kind of what we were speaking about earlier too, is that, we can handle a lot. And I think it's because a lot of us have been given that opportunity to be able to handle a lot. Everyone has their breaking points. Everyone gets to their limit. But I think, again, that is personal. It gets different for everyone. And kind of bring it all back to the coaching. I had a great soundboard when I was going through different periods of time throughout my reign on multiple different titles, that even if I felt like I was overreacting a little bit, I had two trusted people I could go to and be like, hey, is this crazy? Like, am I in the wrong? Are they in the wrong? Should I bring it up? And I do think that helps too, because I'll be honest, sometimes I was overreacting a lot just because I felt like I was being disrespected. And in the grand scheme of things, when I put it off to somebody else, they were like, no, that's pretty normal. And so then you do have to, unfortunately, bite your tongue sometimes.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like when you go into the working world, you sometimes find out that your feelings don't matter so much to everyone, and maybe to the degree that you'd like your feelings to matter. Just on that, I think it's also important for all of us to acknowledge that we have certain triggers, certain behaviors that in other people towards us really set us off, and we may tend to overreact, or we go into our head and overthink way too much. I know if someone insinuates, for example, that I'm unintelligent, for example, or that I try to do something untoward, because I'm very mindful of when I do something, I know why I'm doing it, and I always try to make the right decision. So I had no shame in discussing it because I'm not hiding anything. But if someone insinuated that I was, a bit dumb, or that I had done something that wasn't ethically or morally correct, I would probably bite at that and overreact. And I did do that once over in the UK, and it didn't end well. So I learned my lessons from that. But just so everyone at home knows that we're not completely perfect, even though you guys, have been title holders many times. Do you guys have any behaviors that you're aware of that may trigger a bit of a bite back from either of you? Go to Gianna first.
I think
it's like pet peeve in people's behavior. Anything that will set you off?
I'm trying to think. I know, I feel like I let a lot of things roll off. So I'm good at that. I'm good at just kind of, because I used to be the same way, but I'm trying to think on what even used to, I guess I would say when I started out, because I have not really had, I guess I would say consistent coaching through all my pageants, right? So I think the biggest thing that I guess used to really get me as a teen would be super nitpicky criticisms about about looks or wardrobe. I don't know. I feel it sounds silly, but I had a preference on what I liked on me. So I think I don't have a good one. I don't have a good one, but basically it was just anything that was well, you can't do this because you're not good at this. And I was well, I can be you know what I mean? So it was just kind of being told that I can't do something. And when I knew that I was capable, and maybe back then I wasn't capable and I just thought that I was, but, and any sort of kind of underestimation, being underestimated in that sort of way. I think I think we found it. Underestimation.
Yeah. Being underestimated, I get that one. We can also see why you're a good teacher, because you're tolerant. Because if everything set you off, you can't work with kids. I can tell you that much.
I'm very patient.
Yeah, patient to a fault. Kenzie, what about yourself? Are you as patient as our saint here, or are there certain triggers that really set you off?
I'd like to think I'm patient, but I'm sure I've had my moments. I think two things come to mind. One, when I was much younger, and then one as I started getting older. I think being underestimated is a big one for a lot of people. As grateful as I am for the success that I've had in pageants, I didn't always place at nationals. Sometimes I literally went from being first runner-up at a national pageant to not even placing the next year. And a lot of people were like, that's karma. You've been doing so well, so that's karma for, the accomplishments that you've had. And I just
Right.
I don't think anyone deserves to be punished for
Oh,
committing to a craft and doing
yeah.
well at it. So that used to always really irk me. A lot of people are like, we've already won, these two titles. Why go for another one? And it's not being a crown chaser. It's because I loved pageants and I loved
Yeah.
competing and I loved representing my platform. So that always used to get me really, really upset. People were like, oh, she's competing again. And I was like, okay, guys, well, everyone has dreams and my dreams are shifting as I get older, and that's okay too. So that was definitely my big one for the last couple of years of competing.
It's weird, isn't it? Pageantry, we sometimes refer to it as a sport. I don't think there's any sport, competitive sport, where when someone wants to win again, they go, "Oh, you're just
People are
so
upset.
competitive. Why don't you leave some for other people?" It's like tennis is my thing, and so no one ever told Serena, "Don't play anymore. You've won too many things. Let the others have their turn." It's a weird thing in pageantry, isn't it? Stop competing. These
I got
titles
that
over
too
for some other people.
before I did this
Yeah.
one. They were like, "Why are you? Oh, I thought you'd be done competing." I'm like, "Done competing? I'm 23. Like, what?"
Yeah. Right. It's okay for your dreams to shift and there be a new title or a new idea of what you want to be. That's okay.
Yeah.
I think the thing that a lot of people miss when they ask that question is the joy of not just competing, but the joy of preparing. I know
Yeah.
sometimes it can feel like day to day, oh my God, I got to wake up 5 a.m., full glam makeup, do an appearance, and go to my 9 to 5. Then after that, I got coaching. Then I got to go to the gym. Then and I know sometimes not every day is glamorous, but I think what some people underestimate, and it might be pageant outsiders, it might be people who haven't done as many pageants as you two have, but you guys like it, right? But I also think what you specifically like is the sort of person that competing turns you into. If that's, you're like a better version of yourself when you have that goal at the end of your year or month. Whereas a lot of you feel super lost when you don't have that. You're like, oh my God, I'm just going to lie in bed and eat Doritos the whole day. And that tends to not go so well. So is that what really, we talk about pageant bug and pageant addiction. I'll go to Kenzie first on this one. I mean, you competed, that's sash photos. Is that somewhat accurate, that what you really like most was sort of the person you became during that preparation and competition phase?
Oh, absolutely. My parents, so quick backstory, my parents never wanted me to compete in pageants. It was actually a family friend that kind of signed me up, and my parents obviously had to give in and let me compete. So they have always asked themselves that. They've loved traveling with me and doing my journey, and they've been the two biggest support systems I could have ever asked for. But that's what they always ask, like, why again? You've done this. Why do you keep coming back? And there is no better feeling than being in full prep, having a set purpose every single day that isn't just school or just work or just going to see your friends. Like, you have a goal in mind every single day. And I have never been more set, ready to go, disciplined, and prepared for literally anything in my life. I felt like I was on top of the world. And I do think that's a whole different conversation, that crash after not having that anymore. But yeah, I loved getting on stage. I loved winning titles and I loved meeting people, but the preparation of actually competing by far beats everything out.
Yeah. I think purpose is a really powerful word, because I think a lot of people who are struggling in life, it's because they don't have a purpose. And I think if you don't have a purpose, you end up feeling hopeless, which is the absolute worst place to be. When you're hopeless, you have no purpose, and then you end up in a very dark place. Gianna, what about yourself? Do you turn into a different person when you're competing? I mean, you've given us an insight into what your week has been like. So I'm going to guess yes, but your thoughts?
I do. I think I'm so grateful for my busy weeks. Like, I actually, as much as sometimes when they're happening, I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. Like, oh, I want to take tomorrow off, whatever. I'm so grateful for being busy and for having something to do. And I honestly, I want to like address kind of the other side of it, because I feel like so many people are so quick to be like, oh, well, like pageants are her only personality, or, because like your whole life is prepping. But I feel like going back to that, like, it's not necessarily the pageant that I'm prepping for. It's the person that I'm prepping for that I need to be to do my best. Right? And I feel like this is where like people get it twisted, where if they like see, pageant girl's account and it's like all appearances and title holder stuff and this and that, and they want to say like, well, that's her only personality. I feel like that's not true. So yeah, and it's just everything. It's like, preparing your interview and just like working out where, if I'm not prepping for a pageant, I might not necessarily be as consistent with like a schedule. And so even just I end up just feeling better about myself because I'm like, wow, like I'm actually taking care of myself in a way that I sometimes end up neglecting when I'm not competing. It's kind of sad where I neglect certain self-care when I'm not competing and I prioritize it when I am competing, which maybe I should get better at that. But I think that's a huge thing when, you know, the person that you turn into is because you're suddenly taking care of yourself more.
Well, I think the thing with pageants, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're preparing for a pageant, it's addressing a lot of facets about yourself. I mean, if I take it back to a sport, if you're preparing for a sport, normally it's physical preparation, then there's mental prep as well, getting ready for competition. But pageants is a bit different because pageants, when you go into that interview, yes, you need to communicate well, but you also need stuff to communicate about, right? So that's where your platform or the work you've been doing in your community comes into it. And then you're working on your physical fitness, your communication skills, your mental fitness. And so to me, it's like, I don't see why that would be a bad thing. Like, even if your only personality was a pageant one, so to speak, but that person is learning to better her communication, doing good work in the community, going to charity events.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing the problem. Like,
No.
if that's, you know what I mean? It's like, if that is your personality, that's a pretty good personality, isn't it?
Yeah, no, and I feel like pageants have given me, like, I keep saying this, but I think pageants have given me the audacity to just kind of go for things I want that I probably would not have if it wasn't for, like you said, the mental prep of preparing for a pageant, preparing yourself and going to all these events. So like, I mean, we talked about this, but like, I would have never probably written my book. I mean, maybe I would have, but maybe years later when I realized, hey, like this is something I could do, like I would not have like written my book this young. I would not have, you know, gone for things like, I don't know, different sort of leadership positions at school. Like I would not have done a lot of the stuff I've done at this age if I hadn't had been involved in pageants and preparing myself like that.
Audacity. It's your favorite word. Yeah, Kenzie, can I just ask you, I know this is completely unfair to start this line of conversation, but I asked you before we got on the air, have you retired? And it was a very definitive and emphatic yes, heels are hung up. Yes. So I do believe you, although I say never trust a pageant girl who says she's retired. Let's face it, though, at the age of 27, if you wanted to do another one, there are many, many ones that you still could do, and the age limit's doing what they're doing. It's not like they're fringe pageants anymore. There's a lot of pageants you can still do, and I still think 27 is extraordinarily young. How did you know when to stop or transition? It's not like you completely stepped away, but how do you know?
That's a great question. My dream when I was younger was always to be Miss America. I grew up in the Miss America organization. I watched it growing up. That was what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be. And like I said earlier, your dreams can change, and the person you were yesterday is not going to be the person you are tomorrow. And so as I started progressing through pageants, I found the USA organization. I was North Carolina Teen USA, didn't place at Teen USA, had a great time, but wasn't my path. So I was like, okay, at that age, I was like, maybe I'm done. Maybe this is it for me. And then I found a new organization that I loved and I was ready to support. So I kind of did that for a little bit. But after my teen year, my goal was always to be Miss USA. I loved the organization. I loved what it stood for. I loved the people that I've met through it. I loved my directors. And so when I was first runner-up the year before, I was devastated. And that was the first time I've really ever been so upset that I didn't know if I wanted to come back. And I had already been in that first runner-up position at one point. And when I came back, I didn't even place. So that fear and that embarrassment was definitely in the back of my brain. And there was just something in me, like a little spark almost, that was like, you can do one more year, you can do it. Let's just see what happens. I won. I was able to go to Miss USA. I placed top 20. That was, I mean, my dream again crushed, right? I didn't win Miss USA. But after that, there was no more little light inside of me that was like, yeah, you want to do something else. Like, yes, there's another dream. There was instead something that was like, you can use everything you've learned, everything you've been through to help somebody else who is trying to accomplish the same thing you are. And my whole time at Miss USA, I had these two specific clients of mine in the back of my brain of, well, if I can't do it, they could probably do it. And so now that little light inside of me has stopped, and it's been planted inside these two kids that now every time I see them, I'm like, if you want to keep doing this, like, this is where we can get you to be. And so I don't know if that's going to be the same vibe for everybody, but for me, I could just feel it dim for me, but it didn't stop. It just got transitioned into somebody else.
Yeah, I think that's a sign of a good coach or a good teacher, is when lighting up your students, or when you see your students understand something or they achieve something, that it almost lights you up more than if you had the same achievement for yourself. As silly as that sounds, for some people, that's absolutely not the case, and so they need to do everything for themselves. Can I just ask both of you? So, Kenzie, you've competed in a lot of different pageants. I mean, we saw the sashes. And obviously, everyone watching is going to be aware of USA, America, and the bigger ones, the newer ones like Volunteer America, even All American, things like that. But I just wanted to, is there a shout out that you could give to like your favorite smaller pageant that maybe not everyone is aware of? Because not everyone wants to start at Miss USA. Some people do, some people don't. But is there a smaller pageant that you could perhaps recommend that you had a really good time with?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's even small anymore, but the first 2 years of Ideal Miss, I had a couple of my clients pop over there and they loved it. I don't like to call pageants a prep pageant, but a lot of my girls who want to go on to do Miss America, Miss USA, some of the bigger Miss Volunteer America, Ideal Miss has all those makings, and a lot of those girls cross compete. So I think it is one of the most high level competitions I've seen without it being recognized as one of the biggest. I know people know the name, but I don't think people really realize all that it actually offers. You can do spokesmodel, talent, like there's so many optionals. So I really do love that. And then locally in North Carolina, this is going to be so niche, so it's really only the North Carolina people that would know it. But there is an organization called the Poultry Jubilee Competition. It's literally the chicken festival. And they have one of the cutest and sweetest pageants that they put on. And those girls also go on to compete at our state Miss America pageant. And they are phenomenal. It's local hometown girls who, some of them have done pageants, some of them haven't. And they are producing some incredible people. So local shout out to that one, but I love that organization. I send so many people to them if I can help it. Poultry Jubilee. It's great.
All I have in my head is that you go on stage, like for opening number, you're doing chicken dance, right?
They have to give a speech about chickens. They do have to do that. And it's great every year. It's my favorite part of the competition.
I feel like I need to see this.
I want to go.
I can't envision this.
One of their girls was top 5 at Miss North Carolina's team for Miss America this past year. Outstanding contestant. Yeah.
So hang on. Did you ever compete in this?
No, I didn't know about it when I was young.
What speech do you have to give about chickens? How can you give a speech about chickens?
It's a great question. It's the Poultry Jubilee Festival. It's an entire festival in this town. They have a giant frying pan that you can fry 365 chickens at one time. Pretty cool. And they have to give a speech on this festival and like all the farming and all the jobs that it can create. It's truly one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And I've been lucky to have a couple of my clients win it. And everyone's like, this is so silly. It's my favorite pageant. And they give them like chicken leg socks. That's like part of their prize package. Again, amazing pageant.
My head went a different direction because I've had pet chickens, and I know Peyton's had this similar sort of thing because she's got a lot of chickens. And when you said like a poultry jubilee, I thought celebrating chickens as pets. I didn't realize it was celebrating chickens for how delicious they are.
How delicious and how many jobs they create.
When you have pet chickens, it's very weird when they lay eggs and then you eat it. It's like that's silly.
Wrong.
I'll just say that. And that's like, it came out of you, and now I'm going to eat it. And then when you eat chicken, it's like you got the chicken going around, and then you got a drumstick in your mouth. It's just like, my head feels some kind of way about this. I don't know. The poultry, okay. I do want to see a smaller pageant. I've heard a lot about like county pageants, and
they're great.
I do want to see like a small one that has some sort of, a tradition or people get excited for in the local community. Because I've never seen anything.
Right.
We don't really have those here.
Come to visit North Carolina.
Gianna, have you ever done like a turkey festival or a salmon festival or anything, or pizza festival? I mean, are there any smaller pageants that you recommend, or do you just go like to USA and compete at the top.
Big ones.
This is gonna sound crazy because like up here in the north, where we don't have chicken festivals,
Right.
I do know that out east there is a strawberry festival, and I do think they do have like a strawberry queen or something.
I've heard of
I
that.
don't,
Yeah.
it's like, but it's not like they don't go to any other pageant. It's like within themselves, and I don't know, like it's just kind of I think people from the community that compete. I have heard of that one. But other than that, no, in New York, they have you pretty much go straight to like a Miss America local if you're going that route. Or like me, like Miss Long Island goes to Miss New York USA. But like we're pretty much the only local pageant. There used to be a Miss Rochester upstate years ago, I remember people telling me about, but that's like that's not a thing anymore. So you pretty much just jump right into it. And then unfortunately, like even for some of the other like pageants that are around, like I'm trying to think of there's like all of the other pageants that have like the younger age divisions and like up to Miss, like a lot of them don't even have New York State pageants because it's not as big up here. So like if you want to go to like an Ideal Miss, a UNM or anything like that, a lot of times you got to get an appointed state title to be able to go because we don't have those titles. But that's crazy. I want to go to the South.
It's great. Royalty, sorry, I should have said this earlier too. Royalty USA is one of my new favorites as well.
Okay.
They're based in, I think their pageant's in Charleston now.
Right.
But they're a national competition. Last year they had limited numbers. I think like only 25 girls could compete in each division, but they've opened it up this year. And I had one of their inaugural girls and she had a phenomenal year. Similar vibe, they like all the optionals in the world kind of situation, but I do like that one.
I like the idea of these pageants that are themed around the food. I think because every time I talk to a pageant girl, we always end up talking about food. I have heard about that strawberry one. I got very confused because I thought it was just a name. And if it's the one I'm thinking of, Gianna, they actually go there and they spend a lot of time eating strawberries, which is funny because a lot of the girls I spoke to hated strawberries. I think one even had a mild strawberry allergy. And yet they were eating these strawberries and having a grand old time. I just thought it was a cute saying, but no, it's actually a festival about eating strawberries. Which I guess if you have a strawberry farm, then it's important. I can't stop thinking
out east Long Island, yeah.
Well, honestly, the thing when you say Long Island, the only thing I can think of that comes from Long Island is Long Island iced tea. I don't know if you can have a pageant that's based around I mean, it could be fun, but
in October we have this huge oyster fest because like we're on the water, right? So there's this huge oyster fest where like there's a bunch of oysters like in all ways you could eat them. I feel like I would be the person to start a like Southern style local pageant for Miss Oyster Fest.
Little Miss Oyster, the best.
I think oysters they're one of the most polarizing foods. Some people, I used to like them until someone said they look like boogers, like, nose, like, and then like, that stuck in my head. And then there are some people who go places and they order like 24 oysters for themselves and they're raw and they're just like this. And I'm like, that's too much information.
I don't really like
I don't know. An oyster pageant would.
I think it'd be so funny. And like, they could be like pearl themed. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Pearl crown.
Okay. Kenzie, where do you sit on the oysters? Are you oysters, yay or nay?
Pro oysters. I do love them.
Okay. All right. We might. The jury's out on that one. I like them occasionally. I don't think a whole pageant based around oysters is good. I mean, what are you going to do on stage? Talk about it anyway.
Oysters, oyster community on Long Island. Come on.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, if it's part of the community, and I do love seafood. To be fair, and I'm sure there's more seafood than just oysters. Kenzie, did you say 365 chickens?
Yes, one for every day of the year is how we remember it. In one pan, one huge cast iron.
How big is the pan?
Huge. It's a landmark. You can drive to this little town and see it.
Oh,
they do whole chickens in it. They take a whole chicken and just go
throw them in that landmark every year.
Yeah. It's like Angry Birds.
They actually they put like that's how a fire pit underneath.
And then that's like the plates. They make like chicken plates, and they have like, I think, slaw, cornbread, all that kind of stuff in it, or hush puppies maybe. And then that's how they serve the community for their chicken plates for the festival.
The closest thing I could think of
and
is
the queens help.
Oh my goodness! Here's a chicken.
Pretty cool. Yeah, here you go.
I have things running through my mind. I can't picture this, like a frying pan that's big enough to fry 365. Here in Australia, we have things like, the big banana. It's literally just a huge like banana statue or giant pineapple. We don't have a giant frying pan that we can throw 365 chickens. You remember that game, Angry Birds, where you would pull a bird back and then fling it across? Yeah, that's what I'm just thinking. Like, you do it with chicken, then you've got to get it into the frying pan. Anyway, going completely off topic. I mean, I had a few questions here, but I think a lot of the time when it comes to standing up for yourself in pageants, it's really going to come down to a few of the things we discussed, like your relationship with your director, communication, keeping it respectful, how sensitive you are, if you're more empathic. I think getting a coach on your side who can help, or even a parent or a friend who can give you an outside perspective is really, really helpful. I think the only one of these questions that maybe I'll get your guys' specific opinion on, and then we'll hang it up for this week. It's the one about, when your platform, you choose a platform, and let's say the platform is a bit more controversial and you might be encouraged to stay away from it. I also know that Peyton, for example, with her talent, speed painting, some people told her, oh, you shouldn't do that. You should do a singing, or you should do the more traditional talents. But she very much pushed back against that. I think she wanted to do it because it was different. But sometimes you're told, oh, you can't, your platform. I know someone whose platform is politics, for example, and that is talk about a hot button topic. So do you guys have any thoughts on the question is, you're discouraged from speaking on a cause you care about because it's too controversial. Do you stay quiet, or should I say, do you pick something else? I mean, Kenzie, any pointers on that particular question?
Yeah. So depending on your system, I think is going to depend on my answer for this. In Miss USA interviews and Miss America interviews, we're asked polarizing questions all the time. Like, I can remember being 15, 16 years old, being asked questions that at 27, I have never even thought about. And then same thing at Miss USA. Some of my questions were definitely leaning a little more political or a little more serious. And it's part of our job to be able to talk about those hot topics and give an opinion in a respectful manner. So again, that conversation of, hi, I know what I want to speak on. I know my opinions on it. Here's how I'm going to present it to a group of people without being offensive, without discouraging other people's thoughts and ideas. It's your job as a title holder to listen, to spread a message, and to spread it kindly. So I think 100% you should be able to give that speech if you're able to do all those things in that order, being able to be respectful, understand people are going to disagree, be ready for that backlash if you are going to get some. And again, how you're going to handle that backlash respectfully. You can't just mute all your comments and never respond to anyone. If you are going to speak publicly on something and give your opinion, you need to be ready to back yourself up. And then those directors need to also be aware of what you're doing too. So I think all around, speak on it. You're going to be asked those kinds of questions in an interview anyways. So it's your right to be able to talk about it.
Yeah. Gianna, what about yourself?
I mean, I have to second that, because I think the biggest thing I've been told is, don't just walk the line just because you don't want to step on anyone's toes and, kind of just stay neutral. A lot of times you're asked polarizing questions because they want to know your opinion and they want to see how you handle that sort of question. Yeah. So the more practice you get in a real world situation, the better, right? Obviously, you definitely want to think about, I guess, how it would backlash onto your system. And like you said, make sure directors are aware, because you never want them to be like, well, you made us look bad, like we need to take some sort of action now, right? So obviously letting whoever's in charge know this is your plan and this is what you're doing, to kind of warn of any backlash, right? But also defending yourself, and because they might be like, well, no, you can't, but you have to kind of defend yourself, be your own advocate, and say, again, this is the sort of questions I would be asked anyway. Why not do them in this sort of public manner to practice, to get that in? And I think honestly, in the long run, it would help you anyway if people kind of already know certain things about you. Like, judges look you up, right? So you might actually get asked about it in interview if they look you up, right? So there's a way for you to always back it up and have something to talk about.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, as Kenzie said, is about how you say it. I think that goes unspoken a lot of the time. Some people can't understand when they get bite back on their comments, and then you look at how they posted it or the voice of their caption, the tone they use, and it's like, well, what do you expect when you call another person stupid or call them names? Then you're surprised they bite back. I mean, look, I will tell you guys, as title holders, never bite back on social media. I don't know where you guys sit on this. Getting into the weeds and arguing in comments is not something that is worth your time. It really is not. Just don't do that. But yeah, well, look, we've had a broad-ranging conversation. I think the pillars we've agreed on are communication, respectful communication, learning to work with the director. A lot of it really echoes the workplace as well. I will say that working, with managers or other teachers, in Gianna's case, or sales, you got to learn to work with other people, and that is a skill. It's never all great, and it's never all terrible. And learning to navigate that, I think it's probably one of the most important skills you could probably learn in life in general. In pageantry, the one that teaches you obviously is communication, which is integral to it. And we've also talked about frying 365 chickens at the same time. I still can't.
I'll find a picture. I'll find a picture and send it to you so you can get a visual of what it looks like.
I need to see this.
I feel so sorry right now. And I say this is someone who ate chicken just last night. But just before we hang it up for this week, thank you both for subbing in. Kenzie, have you got anything exciting coming up in the next few weeks, or people want to chat with you about coaching? Do you want to give the spiel, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. I am no longer competing in pageants, so I am fully ready to be a coach for you or your child. I have a wide range of experience in multiple different systems, competing myself or coaching other girls. And I coach pretty much every age. My youngest is 4, my oldest is 28-ish, maybe 29. And I love it. I have experienced great coaching, and I understand what it takes to be a coach that has your back, is on your side, and is not just there to be a coach, but also to kind of be a mentor and a guide through pageantry. I am very conversational. I want to make the best version of you, not a repeat of me. So I am here to make you the best version of yourself in pageants. And I can also help you find the right system. I pretty much know every contract. I've had people read over contracts, which I think is important to mention really quickly here too. Understand what you're signing before you sign up for a pageant. Read your contract, yes. Have a lawyer read it, have an attorney read it. I've had someone read every single one of my contracts. I don't understand it. Highlight it, know what you're signing up for. And if you don't know what you're signing up for, call me and I can help you figure it out.
Your age range is wildly different to me. I wouldn't know how to. I've worked with a 4-year-old for tennis, but I wouldn't know how to do that in pageants. I think my youngest at the moment is maybe 16 or 17, and my oldest is in 50s or maybe a bit older. So there's that's a bit of a different age range. You strike me, Kenzie. Obviously, this is the first time I've met you. You strike me as someone who has quite a strategic brain when it comes to approaching the whole thing. There are some coaches that have a lot of great energy, but I'm not trusting that they're really thinking things through. Is that fair to say that the brain up there is pretty active in terms of this is the steps we need to take?
Oh, absolutely. And I think every girl is different. So the prep that I give to one kid is not going to be the same thing that I give to another child. Everything matters based off of who you are, your platform, what you want to advocate for, who you're going to be as a title holder. And I can help you make those moves correctly or to the best of our abilities at least. So I think pageants aren't just a sport. They're not just something to train for and to be good at, but it can truly launch your life in a completely different direction. And if you're strategic enough about it, you can set yourself up very early to do so.
Right. And if people want coaching, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Visit my coaching Instagram. It is at Kinsey Lee Coaching. On there, you will see a link to my Calendly where you can book a free get to know you session. And then from there, we can talk about your plans, your actions, what you're looking for, and how best to coach you, whether that is virtually, which I do offer, or in person if you want to travel to North Carolina.
Great. And the links to all those guys, the links will be in the show notes, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description. So fantastic. Gianna, what have you got coming up this week? Are you inadvertently running more? Are you getting more things thrown at you in the streets of New York? What's happening? We're talking about what's happening?
A lot of teaching, which I mean, there may be something thrown at me. Who knows, right? We're getting through to the end of the school year. Stuff happens, right? No, but pushing through the end of the school year. I have 4 IEP meetings this week, but then I'm almost done. And then appearances. I'm not running a 5K next week. It's another charity walk for Best Buddies. So just some light walk, not some heavy cardio. But yeah, keeping myself busy, trying to get to the end of the school year and kind of see what my next steps are as far as because I have my Long Island title. Obviously, we're supposed to technically compete in Miss New York USA. We don't have a date for that. So trying to just figure out my life. I'm still prepping. And just we're pushing through. We're making it to May. My birthday's at the end of May, so we're making it to that and making it to the end of the school year.
Right. When is the end of the school year for you guys? Because here in Australia, the end of the school year is December. It's different for you?
Yeah, it's different because our summer is different from you. So our summer starts in June, July, August, September. Yeah. So our school year ends this year in New York. So my last teaching day is June 12th or 11th, whatever that Friday is. I think it's a June 12th. And then we have 2 weeks of either in school, our school finals, or we also take in New York, they're called Regents exams. It's just our state standardized, whatever. So we have class finals, state Regents exams for the 2 weeks. And then our technical last day is June 26th. So elementary schools pretty much go till June 26th, although a lot of those last few days end up being half days, early release, different things. But we go pretty much till the end of June over here.
Okay. All right. So it's coming to an end for the year. Final question before I let both of you go. Gianna, I just noticed that you have your name spelt on your top in sparkly letters. Is that because you might forget who you are, and if you need a reminder, you look down? If you find Miss Long Island on a curb somewhere and she's forgotten who she is because she's done too many appearances?
Wait, look at the back.
Oh my!
Oh, you see it? That's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to assume, Gianna, that you didn't just go into a Walmart and find that on the shelf. How did this happen?
Yeah, I did go into a Walmart and find out a shelf, and no kidding. My director made this for me so that we could because it's we have all these walks and stuff and outdoor appearances, and it's still pretty chilly up here. So, and this is in case I forget who I am ever, or so that other people know who I am. And yeah, the back has a little, obviously a lot of times if I'm wearing it, I'm also wearing my crown and sash, but it also just makes me feel special when I wear it. So I'm wearing it right now.
Well, it's very appropriate. And obviously you've got a pretty good director there. If that's what you get. I've never seen anything quite as sparkly as that and personalized. So good for you. All right. Well, thank you to both of you for subbing in at short notice. Thank you to everyone for watching. You can connect with these guys through the links below, and we will speak to you next week. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you're a competitive pageant girl and you're after some high-performance pageant coaching, make sure to come and check us out at thepageantproject.com, where you can start your journey for free. In the meantime, follow us on all our socials at The Pageant Project. Speak to you next time.